DeVry University. It's been around for over a century. You are the first female CEO of DeVry.
You know what people can't take away from you in life? In education. Never stop learning. When you stop learning, you stop growing.
That's our motto in Spanish. Nunca pares de aprender. Never stop learning.
I love that.
You were the pioneers in online education.
Yes, we were. Early 2000.
There was no Skype. Obviously, there was no Zoom. The high speed was 256 kilobits per second. Dang. How did you guys do it?
You know that when we did that, people laughed.
What do you think is going to happen to education within the next 10 years?
I had a feeling you were going to ask this.
Oh. DeVry University has been around for almost 100 years, since 1931. And today I have Elise. Elise Awad, the CEO of DeVry University. Thank you, Elise, for being here with me.
And thank you for traveling to Chicago to visit us.
DeVry University.
Yes.
It has 32,000 students. It's been around for over a century, since 1931. Since you're the CEO of DeVry University, is why do we do education? We were discussing before this conversation how hard education is. Education is something that mostly people don't want to do.
Yes.
And we need to convince them to do it. So what drove you to do education?
So this is a good question. And you're right. It's very, very hard to talk about the impact of education because it's not a tangible. It's not something you can feel once you invest in it. So let me start with what drove me to my higher education.
Yeah.
I grew up in a family of entrepreneurs. My father was an entrepreneur. My mother worked with my father. We owned a lot of businesses. And I had this dream that after high school, I was going to go to college for entrepreneurship and open up my own business. My father told me one thing, it's you must absolutely go to college because you can't run a business without knowing everything you need to know from a general management perspective, finance, accounting, technology, business, all of it, how to manage people, how to manage vendors. And so I went to college, studied small business management and entrepreneurship, got out of college, said, okay, it's time. It's time for me to open up my own business. I realized it wasn't that easy. You can't just go graduate college and just open up your own business. That's not realistic. Some people do it. But my personal journey, it wasn't realistic. So I said, okay, if not opening up my own business, what's the next best thing? Where do I want to spend my time in my career? I'm a person that's driven by values and mission. I don't want to work somewhere if I don't believe in the mission and I don't believe in what we're doing. So it took me some time. My parents didn't love it, but it took me some time to find where I wanted to land. And I enjoyed that college experience myself. I had great mentors, great advisors. And so I said to myself, I want to give back. So let me try a career in higher education. Fast forward to 2004, I ended up becoming an admissions advisor at DeVry University.
This was 20 years ago.
20 years ago, almost 21 in February.
What does an advisor do?
So we spend time talking to students that are interested, show that they want more information on DeVry University. We talk to them about their background, what they want to do with their future careers, what they're interested in. And we're kind of a consultant.
So you're like the first point of contact that a student has with a college.
Exactly.
And how do you characterize students when they arrive to a school?
Scared.
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 Yeah.
Confused. Not sure what they want to do. Excited. It's a bunch of emotions, honestly. But one thing that they all had was motivation. They were motivated to do something different in their lives and realized after talking to me and other advisors that this was the right path. But when you start, it's just like getting to the start line of a marathon, right? When you start, you're like, what did I do?
Yeah, something that I have noticed in our students as well is that they are incredibly scared of making the wrong choice. Mm-hmm. Like, do I get the wrong career? Should I really go for this? And this fear blocks them, paralyzes them. How do you go around that?
Well, I think that's natural and it's normal to feel that way. I've noticed several students that I've advised back in 2004, and I still remember. It's a reason why I'm where I'm at and still in education because those stories motivated me. But it's natural to feel that way. So let me normalize that, okay? You're not different. But what I'll say is that's the beauty of a college education. Because in the beginning, you start to take, courses and you decide, what do I like? What don't I like? And what you guys...
But that's pretty unique from the US school system. Like you don't have to pick what you're going to do when you start college. You just start the concept of a college.
It's true.
But eventually you picked whatever you're going to specialize from, right?
That's exactly.
Yeah, in Latin America, we need to know, I'm going to be a software engineer from the moment that I graduate high school. So the stakes are the same in practice, but for someone young, trying to make something out of the time that they're going to invest, it's like a massive amount of fear and risk.
Well, that's a lot of pressure. 18, 19 years old, trying to figure out what you want to do for the rest of your life. And that is the beauty of U.S. higher education, because there are so many people that change in the middle of their program because they decided, I really like these general education courses. I want to go deeper into this. And you're talking to your professors. At DeVry, we have professors that work in the field. Many of them work in the field, so they could tell you what it's like.
Did you feel that your job was to diminish this fear, to manage the fear, and to help them get into a path back then?
Yes.
How did you do it?
Well, first of all, you have to have a passion for education and people. It's not just about education, people. Everybody has a different story, but they're all walking the same journey. They know higher education is important. They know it's going to get them a better career later in life, but they all have different perspectives on life. And so you have to go from one conversation to the next with a fresh perspective. I call it the fresh canvas. No paint on it. No paint. You're focusing on that person and you're listening. I do 80% listening, 20% talking, because I let them tell me what's going on. And then I know how to guide them. I'll say, it's about asking the right questions, Freddie. You don't want to give them the answers. You want them to tell you what the right answers are for their life. And so you have to ask the right questions. Again, 80% listening, 20% talking.
Did you ever find a pattern in all of these students, that like a pattern in the moment that it clicked for them and then they went for a specific path?
Yes. So when we talk to them about where they're currently at, something brought them to DeVry University, which is they knew at some moment in their life they wanted to change something.
Yes.
So when they came to us talking about that out loud and sharing with us why they even showed interest and wanted more information, is where it clicks. Oh my goodness, I do need to move forward, or I'm going to be calling you a year from now with the same story. And so I think that's when it clicks, is when you get them to talk about what brought them to requesting information.
So it's about their intrinsic motivation.
Yes. It's very necessary in education.
So in our case, this is so foreign to me. We have to deal with millions and millions of students. And because it's millions of students, we have 5 million students in Platzi, there's no way that we can dedicate time to them. And because of that, like you're telling me all about the unique part of the individual and how you need to listen. And I agree with you 100%, but I'm also feeling a little bit jealous because we just don't have the bandwidth to dedicate this amount of time to them. So we just need to figure out the patterns and the core message of, look, education works. Just apply yourself. And if it doesn't work for you, you can change your path. But within Platzi, it's very easy to change your path and it's very flexible. So in your case, you were first about listening to them and then reminding them what was the reason why you came here.
Exactly. And then the intrinsic motivation, you start to see it come out in the conversation. And then it's, tell me what scares you. Get it out on the table. Why have you not done this before? Why now? That's my favorite question. Why now? Why DeVry? I ask those two questions.
And normally what's the answer to why now?
I have to make a change in my life. I know that if I don't do this now, it'll be a year, 2 years from now, and I'll be thinking about the same thing and time will have passed me by.
So it's regret management.
Regret management. I like that. I've never heard that. I like that. And I will say, when you don't let them just talk about what scares them.
Yeah.
Help them find solutions. You mentioned 1931 at DeVry, 93-year history, almost a century. That's a long time to be in education. Over those years, we've innovated and we've found ways to meet the learner where they're at because of these conversations, because of this experience. I think that's also what makes my career journey here very unique, is I never forgot what these students felt when I first talked to them 20 years ago. And one of the things is, I want to make money now. I want to make money now.
Yeah, my students will answer the same thing. Why do you want to learn about Platzi? Money. I need money right now. If I can get money without education, I will get the money instead of the education.
And more people think now, skills are very important. I absolutely agree. But you know what people can't take away from you in life? An education. That will stay with you forever. They could take away your money. They could take away, and they will not take away the education. So that value will last forever. Whether it's, courses with Platzi, whether it's an associate's or bachelor's degree at DeVry, a graduate degree at DeVry, they can't take that away. And so I always tell people, you find a way to dedicate time for things that are important to you. And over time, 1931, we were 100% campuses. And I realized that in just looking back at that journey and that timeline, that something clicked for DeVry too. We are the pioneers in online education.
You were the pioneers in online education.
Yes, we were. Early 2000s.
Early 2000s. So this is the early internet. That's Internet Explorer was dominating the web. We were still using CRT monitors, the big ones that people thought that will destroy their eyes, kind of. Like the CRT monitors, Windows. It's before Windows XP. So Windows 98. And then Windows Millennium.
Oh my gosh, you're dating me right now. Yes.
I'm trying to date the moment that DeVry made the jump to online education. So there was no Skype, there was ICQ, there was no Zoom.
AOL chat rooms.
Yeah, AOL chat rooms, the internet, the high speeds was 256 kilobits per second. Dang, how did you guys do it?
We did it because we needed to do it. We saw the demand for learners to, take courses with DeVry that were in a flexible format because they wanted to work. They wanted to make money while they were at school.
Yeah, that's a challenge in higher education that I always have a hard time explaining, especially to politicians. Education is surprisingly political. I've been doing this for a long time, and it always surprises me how much education and politics go together. Because every single politician is like, oh, we're going to invest in education, we're going to do blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, it's us. It's the institutions and the educational companies that are doing actual education. And one thing that it's hard to convey is that the cost of education is not just the cost of tuition, but the cost of opportunity.
Yes.
Like the time that people invest in education is time that they're not earning money, working at a job.
Yes.
And it's so hard to convince everybody within the ecosystem of how worth it is.
It comes in time and finances. That's the commitment. And guess what? Those are the two biggest barriers for anybody and anything.
For anybody and anything.
You invest time and money, you better see a return on that investment. But you also cannot focus on getting what you need tomorrow from that because it takes time. I'll tell you one thing that I've told students in my career, and I still tell them today, lifelong learning, never stop learning. When you stop learning, you stop growing.
That's our motto in Spanish. Nunca pares de aprender. Never stop learning.
I love that.
We've been trying to drill this into the Latin American people of the world. Never stop learning.
Never stop learning. You stop learning, you stop growing.
Yep. And I mean, in a world that is constantly accelerating, if you stop learning, you start going backwards because everybody's moving forward faster.
Yes, especially with technology. You wake up tomorrow, it's changing.
Yeah.
It's changing. Earlier I showed you the movie projector from our founder, Dr. Herman DeVry. It's high tech now, right? You see the evolution through the years in that case. And so if you're not learning, you're going to become extinct at some point, especially when it comes to technology.
And it applies to every single career. There's no career where this happens. So that's why you started being flexible. And flexible in education is such a controversial thing because education I have found carries, it's up to the brand, it's up to trust, it's up to what our parents have been telling us. Your parents told you need to get a college education, otherwise you won't be an entrepreneur.
Yep.
And in your mind, you were ready to be an entrepreneur and you had a clarity of mind of your need to get a college education. For a lot of people, they carry the same. They do it because their parents told them to do it. And it's a common joke in education that our parents prepare us for the job market that they saw when they were young.
Yeah.
But we need to prepare ourselves for the transformation of the job market that we have. And we are amidst the weirdest job market transformation that I have ever seen.
So weird. And you look at, I was just watching Tesla come out with these robots. They're going to do everything. I can't wait to buy one, by the way, clean my house. So, that'll be nice.
I mean, I already have one. I have a Roomba. And it like vacuums.
I just bought one on Amazon Prime Day that mops too.
Yeah. It's weird. Excellent though. Excellent.
But where was that 20 years ago?
But now that all of these innovations are happening and there's all of this transformation, DeVry has seen this transformation from the moment that you started in 1931 to the moment that you started doing flexible online plans, apparently in the early 2000s, what the hell, to today. You have been doing education all your career. It's how long?
Most of my career.
20 years?
20 years. It'll be 21 February 2004. Who's counting now?
I think that I've been doing education for 21 years.
You too?
Yeah. Oh, man.
It was meant to be. Look at this.
Yeah. Have you ever thought of going to another industry?
I'll be honest. Yeah, I have. Back, maybe 3-4 years ago, I thought, there was a lot of parallels between higher education and healthcare because you're helping society. But for some reason, I couldn't do it because in healthcare, there are more mix of good stories and bad stories. In education, you're standing on that graduation stage and you're seeing people walk across and you know that there's a good story following that. Can't always say that in healthcare. Yeah,
we were discussing how education is addictive because of how much you can see the impact of your work.
Yes.
Because like the thing that is hard to convey to students, like if I had a superpower, it would be the superpower to make people believe that this works, that undoubtedly it works. Like if you put your time here, your life will change for good. It will take a while because these things take a while and because education is extreme. Education by definition is painful. It's rewiring people's brains like that. Nobody wants to get rewired. They want the outcome of it.
Right.
But it's so hard. And you told me something during this conversation. Like I've been reflecting in Silicon Valley and in Y Combinator, where we come from, they drill into your brain that the way that successful companies become successful is by doing two things: talking to users and then build product. And that's the only two things that you should do: talk to users and build product, talk to users and build product. And companies die when they stop doing one of these, and typically they stop talking to users. They start believing in a vision and the idea of blah, blah, blah. But it seems like the reason why you went from advisor to CEO is because at the core, you love talking to users.
I love talking to users and I still do. And thank you for saying that. That's very kind of you because I want to continue to send that message. I always tell my executive team, the administration at DeVry, listen to calls, find out what they're saying on those calls because our advisors are, advising remotely. Many of our learners are across the country. We do have 17 campuses if people want to go to a campus, but 95% of our students are online. Never lose the perspective of the student because when you lose the perspective of the student, you're innovating for who?
Yeah.
Do you even know who you're innovating for? What do they want? What do they need? Again, you can go back to the early 2000s and us deciding that online was the future. And you know that when we did that, people laughed. They said, online education, is this real? Who's going to do that?
Of course, I remember that in the early 2000s, there were still, because it was the dot-com crash. So for a lot of people, the internet is a fad. This internet thing, this is not going to work out.
It's dangerous. It's a fad. What are we doing? Yes. It's just like AI now.
Yes. Before we go into the horrible black hole of AI, what has surprised you about education in these 20 years that you were not expecting?
I think I wasn't expecting the fact that all of our learners would have a very common theme and a common story of wanting to change their lives. Because when I grew up, education was kind of the next thing you did.
Yeah.
And it was expected. It was like life. You just do it. When I was 18, I didn't think I want to change my life. It's like, I'm going to go make money. I'm going to go be an entrepreneur. I'm going to go be like mom and dad and open up restaurants. the amount of touching stories that I hear, I think that in and of itself has been the biggest eye-opener for me. Can I add a number 2?
Of course.
The number 2 is how fast we have to change our curriculum because of how fast things move in the world.
I was wondering about that. How fast do you have to change your curriculum?
Oh, we look at it every year, every 6 months, actually, especially, the computer information sciences programs, AI is now a new thing. We have to launch AI, cybersecurity. It's always changing. The technology behind that is changing, software development. So my chief academic officer and provost, he'll laugh at this, but I'm always saying, when was the last time we refreshed curriculum? Oh, 6 months ago? Time to do it again.
Yeah.
Take a look. What's changed? And that surprised me. I always thought higher education was, you've got these books that were published in 1967, 1970.
It's an institution.
Yes. You've got to innovate. You've got to keep pace. Otherwise, our learners even walking away with something that's relevant. But I will say, this is the concept of lifelong learning, right, Freddie? Because even if you walk away with that program, you get into a career, your company implements something new, or you're creating it, you're programming it, how are you going to learn? You got to come back. That's just the way the world is right now.
DeVry did it first. So being a pioneer means you light the path for others, and sometimes we make all the mistakes so that other people don't do it. And one of the things that I have found about online education is people have a hard time at the beginning trusting it. Yes. They discount online education as this has to be of a lower quality versus in-person, in classroom, in campus education. What happened at DeVry that allowed you to build trust for
our alumni?
Education?
Our alumni.
It was the alumni? How come?
Let them tell the story. Yeah. Let them tell the story. You can interact with people here today that have led our alumni team for years. Look, I think, that stigma and the fact that online education was new did come with its quality concerns. And who better than someone to graduate from that program to say, you know what I'm holding in my hand was no less quality than what you got sitting in the classroom, for 8 hours. And so they went and they got good careers, and we engaged with them and we told their stories. We have an alumni wall right down here. You could see some of our alumni in early 2000s took online classes, there's sometimes they take mix online and on site, and they're in great roles. And I think it goes back to, I could sit here and you could sit here and we could talk about how important education is. We could talk about how great our companies are, our university is. But in order to get trust, you have to hear from the user. You said it yourself, right? Listen to the users. Let the users then tell the story.
Did it happen to you? Because it happens to me a lot. That as students, successful students tell their stories, people think, nah, that cannot be true. Like they were paid, or maybe this is not just right. Like even like that. And I don't mean to make this a therapy session. Maybe it is. But did it happen? Because it happens to me when I tell people about the successful stories of Platzi students. There is a common social media reaction of, nah, no, that's an actor. That's not real.
Well, the beauty of this, and it may have happened, I'm not privy to the fact that whether that happened or not. But what I can say is, this is where the internet is our friend. You see our alumni on LinkedIn.
Oh, yeah, of course.
You see our alumni on the pages of their companies, if they're in a C-suite role or in an executive role. And so you can validate information in today's day and age. And so it may have happened in the past where, it's an actor, or, they paid them to say that. Look, how many times I look at reviews of products that I'm buying on Amazon.
Of course.
And I think to myself, did someone pay them to write that?
Yeah, because some people is like, this shampoo changed my life.
Yeah.
Before this shampoo, I didn't know philosophy. And now Seneca just comes into my brain because
it just comes into my brain because I'm taking a shower every day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, look, you're never going to be able to change people's, fear of whether it's real or not. But I think the power is in having the user, the person that was educated, telling their story. And, hopefully the community out there listening will find ways to validate that. we're very highly regulated in the United States when it comes to education, which is a good thing, I think.
Yeah.
Personally.
Yes.
Because you are held accountable to doing the right thing for students. So we at DeVry, and another reason why I've been here for 21 years is because we do the right thing for students.
What's an example of doing the right thing for students?
I'll give you an example. So you were in the state of Florida during the hurricane?
Yeah. Yes. For now, temporarily. We'll see.
I know that you spend a lot of time in Latin America,
Yeah.
But unfortunately you were there, but nothing happened in Miami, I'm sure. But, we have students that were in Tampa. We have students that were in areas where the hurricane hit. And here's an example of doing the right thing. In higher education, academic rigor and all of that, very important. So is flexibility. How many students lost the internet? We had several.
Many.
How many employees
Millions.
lost? Right? And so every single one of our instructors, locked ours, rallied and said, we know what you're going through. We are going to be here to support you. If you missed a deadline, we will extend that deadline. We want to make sure that you take care of yourself first, your family first, and that you're okay. All over social media too. I mean, we posted about the hurricane. We have part of our value proposition for students and benefits for students. It's not just about benefits for employees, benefits for students too, is help when it comes to mental health, help when it comes to support for life. And so there's people you could talk to too. 'Cause I don't know if this happened to any of our students, but let's just say one of them, is now displaced because their home is flooded or ruined. Talk to someone. We have that support for you. That's an example of doing the right thing for students, giving them the flexibility to learn when it's right and they're mentally able to, and supporting them when they're dealing with personal stuff.
This blows my mind about U.S. education. I'm pretty sure that you consider this special, but also normal. A thing that I have found about higher education in Latin America versus the U.S. is that in the U.S., education is collaborative. You want people to graduate.
Yes.
In Latin America, higher education is combative. They want people to fail so that just the very best reach the top. So our graduation rates are very low. And the behavior of the institutions is not like this at all. And I even see it in the academic side of things. Like I have seen the higher education process of other people close to me. And sometimes I've gone through education here in the US. I did some courses in Stanford Graduate School of Business and HBS and blah, blah, blah. And it was a mind-blowing surprise to me that they wanted me to succeed and graduate. Like they didn't want to punish me. They were like, why didn't you turn over this exam or these materials or this project? Are you okay? I'm like, am I okay? Are you really asking me that? I'm still flabbergasted by this change that I'm pretty sure that for you feels, of course we want people to graduate. Of course we want people to succeed. It's so unique. The one thing that I'm getting from here is how at the core of successful graduation rates is empathy for the reality of the student, where you guys understand that life is diverse, random, and chaotic, and that sometimes people don't show up their best version of themselves at the class, not because they don't want to, but because they cannot. And that flexibility isn't a mean to lower the bar, but a mean to give people more equity and a higher chance of succeeding.
You said something that I wanna underscore. Our culture here, you'll hear people say culture of care. It is about empathy. What job will any employee go to where they're gonna, not have, a bad day? What job? I've had bad days. I made it to CEO. You're a founder. You're a CEO. Have you always had good days 100%?
I mean, I'm a CEO. Every day is a mix of an excellent day, of a terrible day, and I live in a maelstrom of emotions, and sometimes it feels very, but it doesn't matter. So yeah,
right? Believe me, I'm with you. We need to talk more. It's be therapeutic. But my point is, what makes you think it's not like that in education when someone's getting their degree? Every day is going to be different. Our instructors are trained to pay attention to their classroom. We have class sizes 30 to 1, sometimes 25 to 1.
Yeah.
And so these instructors are paying attention to these students, and they know whether it's a good day or a bad day based on how they're behaving. I'll say, sometimes I'll tell you I'm guilty. I don't want to tell my instructor what's wrong because I'm like, oh, they're grading me. I don't want them to know I'm having a bad day.
Yeah, people don't want to be honest to someone that they look up to and someone that they know is grading them.
Exactly, because they're vulnerable at that moment.
Yeah.
So that's why the advisor role is so important. It's not just about admission.
It's a safe place.
It's a safe place. Think about that. And I always tell my team, you are the one person that may be in their life as their personal trainer, their coach, someone that's the safe person to talk to. And let us be the liaison with the professor. Hey, hurricane hit, I'm not going to use your name because that would be bad luck, but Frankie. Hurricane hit Frankie really bad. And, we've got to be a little more flexible. Out of cell service called me from a friend's house. Can you offer an extension for this assignment? We do that because we know that it can be a vulnerable situation to have to talk to your instructor. It all goes back to the culture of care that we set. And it's not just care for students. You talk to the employees, we've got some of them here today, so feel free to ask and check me on, fact check me. But culture of care also applies to employees.
Of course.
Because if you don't care for your employees, how can they care for your students? And that's our philosophy.
I also think that's why the price is the price that it is. I think that especially for Latin Americans, higher education in the US is famously expensive.
Yeah.
And the sticker shock that people get when they see the price of higher education, I think goes with the fact that when you are on the outside, you don't realize that this is what will happen. That what you are getting access to is not only a classroom that you can get through like a video or a book or something like that, but a system of people that know who you are.
I love that you said that. It's about the care formula. It's not just the advisors on the front end. It's the advisors throughout. It's the career services team. It's the instructors who are, many of them, working in their field of study. So they're teaching for us and they're working in industry. So you're getting real-time feedback.
Yeah, Platzi works like that.
And so I will say that, education, it's not cheap. But I understand that this part of my job is to make sure that we do as much as we can to provide those services because they're valuable, right? They're value add. But we also focus on affordability. We have not raised our tuition in 5 years, Freddie. 5 years. Guess what? Inflation. It's hitting us.
Yeah, it's hitting us too.
We've had to increase the starting salaries for some of our advisors, our technology in the classroom, and even systems that we use to support advising. Those costs are going up. As much as possible, I tell the team, do not put that on the backs of students. I can't say that every institution thinks like that, but we have 5 years, no tuition freeze. And by the way, scholarships and grants are rising. So net tuition is going down. And we don't get a chance to say that often. And so I wanted to take an opportunity to tell you, it's not just about democratizing education from an access perspective. It's also affordability.
Yeah. We have a very unique way of helping our students as well. When a Platzi student wants to get a DeVry degree, we have a bunch of systems that facilitate that, the tuition and the registration. Someone from Platzi's end will help them, and someone from DeVry's end will help them as well. It's hard to explain when you're on the outside. But again, on the inside, it's a system of people that know who you are and will help you get to beyond where you want to be, which at the end of the day is the objective.
I think people think of, the process as technology. Technology is doing.
Of course, it's just like a software onboarding thing instead of no, it's a bunch of people.
It's a bunch of people and it's technology, and by leveraging both, some people just go all on people and they don't leverage technology enough. By leveraging both, you can remain affordable.
So I had a pin on COVID a minute ago. How was COVID for DeVry? Because you were like at the same time better prepared than most, but also this was a nightmare for humanity as a whole.
It was. I will say our students, they were dealing with a lot. They were dealing with a lot. And the stories were very sad. Our employees were dealing with a lot. This is, I think, what put the importance of community in focus for me. Our students online have access to a community of other students. And it's peer led. We don't engage, but I look and I was reading, and there were students that were saying, I lost my grandparent. I lost my parent. I don't know how I can survive. My kids are home. I can't do this. I'm working from home. Now I got to go to school. My kids are home. I'm teaching them because they're studying online. By the way, high school is now online. Right?
Online high schools created one of the largest damage to education outcomes in the modern history of our species. It's really impressive. And I'm not sure how we're going to recover from that.
Well, the lack of interaction, the lack of...
Yeah.
So, the community was important because then they started hearing from everybody else, oh, I'm dealing with this too. And what was outstanding and so moving was that students were saying, but you could do this. We did this for a reason. Let's stick to it. And they're encouraging each other.
So it was very similar to what you were mentioning before. Let the alumni talk. Let the students talk. Let them show that it can happen.
Yes.
It's not about DeVry telling them, but it's about people like them telling them.
Exactly. And the student support.
Man, this empathy thing really goes a long way.
It does. In anything we do. Think about it. When you interact with a brand, do you want to interact with a brand that's cold, or do you want to interact with a brand that cares about you? From the cars we drive and the service we get when we drive off that lot to the people that we do business with on a normal day-to-day basis. You want to deal with someone that cares about you, not just, putting you through it's moving on to the next, right? No.
Yep.
Our student support advisors are part of that community. And I'll say, sometimes students, they tell a lot to their students. You said therapy session earlier. So they become the therapist sometimes.
Yeah.
But it's a audience that will not judge you because they're not part of your family. They're not, in your day-to-day life. They're just there to support you.
Yeah, and it's what they say often, that representation matters. But it's not aspirational, it's practical.
Yep.
It's like representation matters, of course, but not because of random reasons. It's because if you see someone with your story that made it, then you think you can make it, and then you actually make it. And it's actually very simple. So I have two more questions.
Yes.
One's about the future and the other one's about you. Let's go with you first. We were talking about how much in a practical matter, representation matters, and how when students see themselves, then they believe in themselves. And you are the first female CEO of DeVry, which is, I think, a very big deal, and also an important moment in terms of representation. What has surprised you about the CEO role that you were not expecting?
I had a feeling you were going to ask this.
Oh.
Because people ask me...
I don't like to be predictable.
People ask me... You're not predictable, by the way. None of these questions were predictable, but they were very good questions. I think the most surprising thing about being the CEO is understanding that I thought being the CEO, you're going to get so much done. Like you're going to be able to drive change like this quickly, and you have to work through people more. You have to have a good team. You have to have good leadership. You have to have people that want to move fast. You have to have people that understand the importance of innovation and change. And so I think leadership and the importance of leadership at this level. I know that sounds crazy because I've been a leader for a lot of my career, but it's more important in this role because as the CEO, you have control, right? You're the face of the company. You're setting the vision, the strategy, but the execution of that, you depend on a lot of other people.
I find it fascinating how people believe that being a CEO is about authority when it is about influence.
100%. That's a good way to put it. And you have to have an ability to influence others.
Yes.
So I say results through people. I always say that. That's my motto. Results through people. And I want people to know who I am as a leader. And so anybody that's worked for me for the first time, I say, you can expect 3 things from me. I'm fair, I'm firm, and I'm consistent. And the firmness is, we are here to do a job, and everything centers around our mission. Everything.
What's your mission?
So our mission is to, in short, close society's opportunity gap while also staying aware of the emerging technological advancements.
Close society's opportunity gap. It's a very poetic way to put it.
I mean, there is so many people, you talked about representation. It shouldn't have taken 93 years. I love DeVry, but DeVry's not for the first woman to be the president and CEO. But this is a story that you see across any industry. That's an opportunity gap.
And everywhere in the world.
And everywhere in the world.
Yeah.
That's a gap. And do I think that we're going to do this alone? Absolutely not. I'm not crazy. I don't think that we're, we talked about the marathon heat sheets as superhero capes.
Yes.
Everybody at DeVry, we wear a cape because we know that a virtual cape. We know that we have a job to do, and that's to change society, but we can't do it alone. It's just doing our part.
And education is the business of change. We change people's minds, people's brains. We change with the change of business and the change of technology. And now we're living at the point that they call the singularity because we cannot predict the future anymore. 2 years ago, an alien spaceship arrived to Earth's orbit in the form of large language models and AI. After a traumatic moment of all of us understanding what house arrest means. Mm-hmm. And now we're here. And now we're here in a world where a kind of superintelligence has read all the books and all the information, and that is transforming both for good and bad education around the world. It's transforming the way that we think about degrees. It's transforming the way that we think about careers, work itself. What do you think is going to happen to education within the next 10 years? And what do you hope will happen? Which are very different things.
Okay.
What's your expectations for the future and your hopes for the future in education?
So I think what's going to happen to education in the next 10 years is I think it's going to look very different. It already does look different.
Yes.
More and more institutions know that technology is going to play a part in delivery. You see online education becoming more and more prominent. Very happy that we were in the early 2000s.
Oh, yeah.
We saw it. So
Pioneers.
And I think education is going to be, it's not going to be thought as a terminal, milestone anymore.
So you think that people will change their perspective on education being linear?
Yeah, like they did with online modality. Not good, not quality. Oh, it's the only option for me now. I want to work and I want to go to school. And now you see, I could tell you, go look online. There's many institutions, even community colleges,
yes,
who are very slow to move now with online as a modality. And many of them, it all happened in 2020. But now it's reality. And they've learned how to do it, and they're doing it consistently now. And I do think that the concept of lifelong learning is going to stick, but it's not going to be within the next year. It's not going to be within the next 2 years. I think that's going to be driven by what the employer wants.
Yeah, it's a societal change, but it's also a market change. We don't have a choice. Like things are changing really, really, really fast. Like Excel became such a common skill that is practically a soft skill.
100%.
Everybody needs Excel, and AI will look like that. Everybody will need AI. Yep. So yeah, I will believe that. So is that your expectation or your hope?
It's a little bit of both, but it's my expectation.
Right.
I tell you, we use Excel, but many of our analysts and our data scientists, they need to know Power BI.
Yes, of course. And now LLMs can ingest a bunch of data and process it really fast.
It's so fast. There is the other issue, right? Is the trust in the technology. You see cybersecurity as an issue across every sector.
Yeah.
We here in Chicago, one of the hospital systems, very sad, Children's Hospital, went down completely because of a cyber attack. Yeah, and they had to go back to pen and paper.
Gods. Yeah, we've seen those cases in Latin America as well. There was a large healthcare provider that also had to go back to pen and paper because of a cyber attack. And it's incredible that it's healthcare providers being attacked.
So use that as, it's sad. It's very sad. But use that as an example of why upskilling and reskilling and learning how to fight against that. We call our students here cyber defenders.
Yes.
And if you're going into a cybersecurity program, you are essentially labeled a cyber defender. How many organizations are going to need that?
No, it's not optional.
It's not optional anymore. And that's what I see happening in the future of higher education. Upskilling is not going to be optional.
Of course, because you're going to get attacked. It's impossible. Otherwise, you won't have a company, you won't have a career. If you handle information, you will be attacked.
And education and healthcare are the two biggest targets because of all of the personal information that we have.
What about hope? What do you hope that will happen? What's your best hope for education within the next 10 years?
I hope that, and this is not just about DeVry University, I hope that we move a little quicker than we have in past in terms of evolving, because the world's not going to wait.
Culturally, technology, everything.
All of it, because the world is not going to wait. And students, learners coming through our doors are going to need us to be thinking like that constantly. But it's not just about DeVry. Not every student's going to go to DeVry. So I hope that other institutions see the importance of moving quickly, just like they did with online now.
Okay, I lied, and this is the actual last question.
Okay.
How do we move faster?
People that have the motivation to move faster, working with us, and leveraging technology to help us move faster. I think the mindset and then the capabilities are two different things. If you have the right mindset, the capabilities can help you move faster. But if you have the capabilities in the wrong mindset,
it's about enjoying the speed.
Enjoying the speed. Like I said, the world's not going to wait. It's changing around us. Another one of my favorite lines is, if you don't evolve, you're going to become extinct. And so what I hope, and go back to the hope question, is that I hope people understand the importance of education, regardless of what people are saying in the world and in society. You know, there have been times where the economy has hit a, rock bottom with a recession. Who did employers go and hire? It got very competitive. Who did they hire? They hired the person with the degree. They hired the person with, the level of expertise in the workforce. I think both are going to matter. And so let's not lose sight of that, because you can't control what's going to happen in society, but what you can control is what you do about it.
I love this part about control within you and how that defines the outcome of your education. Thank you, Elise. This was amazing.
Thank you for being here, Freddie.
Thank you.
You're welcome.